A few seconds. There we go. Streaming, so ready to go. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this meeting of the Planning Community Committee and the Woodley Town Council. Woodley Town Council meetings are now recorded, with recording streamed live and stored on the Town Council's YouTube channel. By virtue of attending the meeting, you consent to having your image and audio recorded for this purpose. If you do not wish for your image and audio to be recorded, then please do not stay in the meeting. For those in attendance, we're not expecting a fire drill tonight, so if you hear the fire alarm, please head to the nearest fire exit and congregate at the fire assembly point by the open centre at the front of Woodland Park. Do we have any apologies for the meeting?
Yes, we had apologies from councillors Jewell and Bragg, although councillor Bragg has indicated he will attend virtually if possible.
Very much. Declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest from the committee? Okay. Minutes of the last meeting of the planning meeting held on the 23rd of May 2023. Are there any? Can I say that they are a true record signed as such? That meeting. Yes. Yeah. Any points from that meeting that need to be brought to our attention in any way? Or you... On to page 13. Current planning applications. Start with 231039 18 Selcourt Close. This is a household application proposed conversion of the garage and habitable accommodation with an associated change to fenestration. This is part retrospective. I've got anything that I wanted to. I don't know if anybody else has got anything that they wanted to say on this one. There's been no objections from neighbours or anybody at all.
I think there was, isn't
I
there?
didn't see anything in the. I went on the planning applications. Was there one on there?
I think there was. Yeah, there was a neighbour had complained, and I'm saying it was out of keeping with the estate, and also they were concerned about the nuisance when the work was being done. And I'm looking at it, it's quite a narrow road. I can't quite see. I mean, why that would be out of keeping with what's going on the road, because as far as I can see, it's going to take out their their garage door and replace it with a window. But I don't know whether we can just flag that they're concerned about access when we get going there. But
during construction, you're saying the access was during.
Yeah. Yes.
When it comes to planning, if we were to make that point, it could be discussed, and there can be conditions, for example, on timings and vehicle movements.
They seem to be concerned about whether they could get out, but I guess that happens with everybody. But
they have to adhere to not starting before.
I think it was more, yes, getting out, because it's a little quite narrow close.
Yes,
and but again, that's a bit common sense.
but yeah, they have to adapt to that. The time, I'm sure the builders and
I don't have any objection to it. I think it's probably just a bit sour grapes, actually.
yeah, I don't think it's anything relevant.
Right, everybody else happy with that? No other comments? Anybody wish to make? Okay. We're moving on. 231044 52 Norton Road. Household application proposed erection of a single story front extension. There was no objections to this, as I was going to say, but two in support, which came from rather far afield. Feeling there might be some questions. Wrong. The front extension of both existing and proposed do not show the side extension. Yeah, that's what I looked at. And the drawing, we got the drawing of that, because there is a side extension, and on the elevations it can show.
So that's all an extension at the top end, is it?
Yeah, if you look at the elevations,
the existing plans.
yes, that's really still there. I don't know why. It doesn't. It's not a material point, but when you look at the drawings, the front elevation, it doesn't show it
Oh,
at all.
Proposed-
That they're
proposed-
proposing,
Yeah. well,
Proposed
that's
front
it, yeah.
elevation. No.
they're not showing- is that a garage, do you know?
Well, I'm not sure what that piece is on the side, but, go back to the end of the plan.
Front elevation is proposed.
There is a garage, I think, set back.
Yeah, that's it, but it's not shown on the elevations, is it?
Yes, so my recollection is there's a little photo with it and that it's quite set quite far back. And basically they're just putting a big porch on the front with a downstairs loo.
oh, right, it's a lead to.
Well, there is a building down there, isn't there?
I think it's actually discreet.
Just a point, I would have thought that would have been shown on the front elevation.
I think it's a
I don't know if it's
discreet
there.
building.
But it's just because it's brick and they've got that, they've not got the,
Well, it's in that bit there, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah, that looks on the satellite images, in fact, is the lead to.
Yeah.
There's a building there, both of them are shown on the plans as if they're once.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Anybody have any concerns on that one at all? Or any
I
issues?
think it fits in all. Well,
Everybody happy with that? Okay. We move on to 231135, which is Bridges Resource Centre, full application for the proposed installation and an external two-storey fire escape staircase to the side elevation of the existing property associated with works and replacement of timber fencing and side gate. Well, this is a centre for disabled and children in care. Obviously, the fire escape is something that has been seen to be necessary, an addition. And I've looked at the drawings of this, and it seems to me that it wouldn't impact on the building at all, and it's a necessary item anyway. So I don't know how you feel with this thing again. We need to.
No objection.
That's fine. Okay. 231153, 67 Vauxhall Drive, rear extension, change the fenestration. This one again, I didn't see any reason to have any objection to this. I don't know how anybody else feels. Again, we're all happy with that one. Okay. 231154, household application of the proposed erection of a two-story first floor side extension and single-story rear extension. Again, I couldn't see any issues on that one. There is nothing at all. Everybody happy with that one? 231195, 83 Woodlands Avenue. Household application for proposed erection of a single-story rear extension plus changes to fenestration. This would then make this property a 5-bedroom. But I think there's sufficient parking. I think it shows parking for 3 vehicles, which I think meets the standard that's required. So other than that, I think no. And 231214, 38 Selzard Avenue, household application for proposed erection of single-story front extension, 2-story side extension, single-story rear extension, plus changes to fenestration. The only thing I saw on this one on the drawing was the proximity to the boundary with number 40. It was open. It was there. I think so. It seems. The grey area is the extension.
But that's a single story.
Yes. Side.
So the 2-story side, do we have the front elevation of the 2-story side? Because that should then be set back a metre from the boundary. So that then, there, I believe that the ground floor can be to the boundary, can be to the party wall.
Right.
But I believe the first floor, although it is set back from the front elevation that way, I believe the first floor needs to be a metre over to stop it becoming like a row of terraces. Unless they've changed their specs since I put my planning application in.
see whether, yeah, so on the drawing here, there is a reference here. Sorry.
Don't apologise. Pleased that you're looking. Thank you.
This 100 here, whether that's referring to the boundary.
So that would be the meter then, wouldn't it? 100? Yeah. Good point.
So we're okay, that's the.
But the drawing, the picture, the drawing didn't show it stepped in, did it?
This
If that gap there's
line
100.
here is the boundary, if that is the end,
Yeah,
then it's suggesting that that space there
it's a meter.
may well be a meter.
But the plan picture doesn't indicate that, does it?
It's not very clear.
That would be the only thing I would flag up. But,
Yeah.
because they should be over it like a rash, really.
Come on, the building regs, I'd have thought.
Yeah. It's still a planning issue on that one. I mean, there is a line between building regs and planning. And if the planning department, if the planning department were to agree that, it's a bit difficult, isn't it? I would have thought to building regs to have a say. We flagged that one up. Have you? Right.
Just make a comment that there should be a feature and it's not clear on the block plan.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Might be there, but we can't.
Yeah, because unfortunately that avenue's lost all of its character, hasn't it, really? All these extensions.
239, 231, 239. 8 shall be close. Household application proposed single story rear extension. Couldn't see anything at all that would cause any concern on that one. Everybody's happy with that. 231, 245. Again,
Good to see you.
this ties in with that one. It's still ancient. Gross household application proposed conversion of the garage to habitable accommodation with associated change of administration. So it's turned the garage into a room, which seems to be quite popular. So again, any objections to that?
No.
231263. 2 Shackleton Way. Single story front and part single story, part 2-story side extension, plus a single story side extension following the demolition of the existing front canopy roof, bay window, garage and side extension. So
I was a bit
virtually a new
confused.
house.
I was a bit confused with this
Yeah.
because if you look at the planning decisions, they've got a planning application approved. Or am I missing something? 230792.
What page was that one?
It's on the ones that's got date there, 230792. And I was trying to read it, but it was the same.
It was approved on the 18th of May and this can take you.
This is a new one, isn't it?
At the meeting on 20th of June. Oh, no, sorry, that's this one. Yeah. the
But
18th of May.
he's adding
And
something.
there was no objections last time. The last one was householder application for proposed erection of a single story side extension and single story front side extension following demolition of the existing front canopy roof, bay window, garage and side
So
extension.
there is an alteration to the plan.
Is that what it is? Since he got planning, got the permission, planning permission, he's changed it then.
I think it seems to.
Is it because of the part 2-story side extension?
To read it.
Bring up the old
Restoration,
plans.
single story.
Sorry.
That's much clearer than that, thanks.
It's doing a lot to it.
Probably the best thing to do is to compare the two block plans, so. You see those together?
Yep, yeah. Thank you.
Oh, that makes sense.
Oh, sorry, sorry.
So left is the new one, yeah?
That's a corner block.
That's
Yeah,
them just
yeah.
splitting
It's
it
got bit
together.
Yeah.
So it looks like they've changed the.
Turn that one.
So that's sort of opposite the doctor's, isn't it? Entrance.
Yeah.
It's the,
Wednesday, if the grey section is the existing
Yeah.
building,
So we've got
the
that.
existing building seems to
I can't see what it's changed.
change on here. There's 4 parking spaces compared to 3 here.
Shoehorned in.
It's a funny
But
shaped block, isn't it?
If that block plan. Not very clear as to. The outline of the building looks approximately the same otherwise.
So is the extension bit on the left, is that different from the original?
In fact, there it is there.
Because
So
the-
you must clockwise, that's
Because
what you're looking at, isn't it?
I'm flicking between the two here. So that's this application you're considering tonight.
Yeah.
And that's. I'm going to try and get it to, yes, it's almost exactly in line. I'm just going to flip between the two. So
Oh,
Almost changing
Yeah.
it in some.
It
Doesn't seem to be going out
footprint doesn't
anymore.
seem to be going very much bigger, does it?
No, it's just, it seems to have altered the. Maybe it's to do with the windows.
Existing proposed ground floor plans.
The turning down.
Yeah.
I think it's the garage. It's turning into.
That's existing
Square.
on the previous, on the previous application. It will be equivalent on the new application. In fact, this has approved.
Yeah.
It's doing different, just. Shout it.
That to me looks the same.
Can't see anything different.
Every roof is the same.
Oh, I'm just confused.
Thing to check is the elevation to see if it looks.
There's same on it.
Same. Oh, there's a window on the side elevation up here on the current one. And there isn't one on here.
Spot the difference. Oh, yeah.
It's like one of those quizzes, isn't it? You've got to find PM.
So.
That's the only
You
difference.
think that's-
I've no objections to it.
I can't see it being any different.
It's current application.
It's just altered it a bit.
To make a decision on the current application.
Yeah.
Okay, we're all quite happy with that one?
Yeah.
Okay. 231, 267, 31 Hull Road. household application for the proposed erection of a single story rear and side extension and drop curb following demolition of existing storage room. So, see any problems with this, but again, anybody have any views on it at all?
No.
Quite happy with that one. 231277, 9 Redwood Avenue. Household application for proposed erection of a single story front extension and addition of a pitched roof over the existing front porch, plus changes to the fenestration. This, I think it's number 11, are doing exactly the same thing, and it actually looks quite tidy when you put them both together. So I don't see any reason that number 11 was approved. It'd be very hard to make a case for not approving number 9. Thank you.
No, yes, it's fine.
Yeah.
They've done number 9 actually. Number 11.
Number 11.
11. I think
Yes.
it's done 11 if you look on
Yeah.
Google Maps. It looks a bit wonky at the moment.
Yeah, so I think it would improve the appearance anyway. We're quite happy with that one. 41 South Bay Crescent, 231292. Householder application for proposed erection of a single story front extension to form a porch and a part single, part 2 story side and rear extension. Following the demolition of the existing single story side extension, plus modification to the rear roof to form rear roof form and changes to the fenestration. This is quite a big plot, I think it's one. There is an attached, there is a letter. I think this follows on from a previous planning application. We'll copy that letter. I'll bring it.
Yes, the person was saying that they'd had approval received for a similar proposal in 2021, but they've now changed it because they've discovered difficult drains.
Yeah, so I think they've gone beyond the drain problem.
Yeah, so it's some modifications around that.
So I
Yeah.
think that's the only difference, is to overcome a previous building problem, wasn't it, a drainage problem, so having already been approved. Actually,
Yeah.
quite happy with that, yeah.
Yeah.
Two three one three four zero, 9 Dunbar Drive, household application for proposed conversion of the garage to habitable accommodation, plus changes to fenestration. That again, didn't seem to impact any parking problems, which would be the issue.
It's quite a common thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mm.
231359. 148 Reading Road, household application for the proposed conversion of the loft, including a hip to gable extension, rear facing dormer and front facing balanced roof light, re-roofing the existing rear extension and changes to fenestration. When you look at this, it's quite a sizable change to the layout, the look of it, wasn't it? But I think most of that occurred at the back of the building.
Yeah.
Church windows are at the front, I think, from memory.
Yeah.
The dormer is at the back.
Can't put dormers in front.
No.
Have there been any objections from neighbours? No.
All okay with that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And finally, 231397, 12 Vauxhall Drive, household application for proposed erection of first floor side and rear extensions with 1 number Juliet balcony plus changes to fenestration. Always when you put a Juliet balcony in, as to what that's overlooking, as to whether or not, it's going to be a problem. But I think that must, when I looked at the drawings, that must back onto Addington Gardens, a new development. Couldn't see it from, it's not actually marked the positioning of it. Must be the old Addington School site.
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah,
There's number 11 in Addington School or Addington Gardens, whatever it's called, would be looking at the Juliet balcony would be looking over that. I think it's quite a distance away. There's been no objections to it, no one's raised any objections, and I would have thought they would have been notified of the application, so nobody else has got any reasons to make a comment. Okay. That is it for the current planning items. Thank you very much.
Over the page, sorry, Phil,
Sorry?
over the page. There are two over the page.
You just done.
Just done that.
Oh. Yeah, so I thought you were still on this one, okay. Oh. Oh, well.
Decisions on page 15. That went contrary to our views, which was refused, contrary to the Town Council's recommendation of approval, and that was the orangery in Early. That must have just been a neighbouring wall, mustn't it?
No, that's just before the boundary, and they were proposing a slight change to the front window so they could put a kitchen in, which would be
Oh, that's
different.
Right, okay.
It's kind of town, they're just running a town.
That was refused. And then the next one, I think, is Antrim Road. Approved contrary to Town Council's recommendation. Proposed a single-storey detached building in rear garden, which was retrospective. I remember that. It was last week, wasn't it? Last meeting. Yeah. But otherwise, I think they've with all their recommendations, which is proud of. Great. On to tree preservation orders. There's two. 26 Quentin Road. Proposal to fell it. Fell and leave stump on Western Avenue. Do you know what you about these? No.
Can I ask? It says this type of application does not require consultation. What does that mean?
I think, well, I don't know, perhaps you coming on.
There's no statutory duty for the borough council to notify, to consult with us and get our opinion on those applications. Their tree team consider the application and consider whether it's necessary to do the works to those trees and then agree. So we have no right to say anything whatsoever. Very occasionally, very occasionally, if they think that there's going to be some objections, they do ask for comments, but on nearly every site, I've had two in the 2 years I've been doing.
So, Bill, my supplementary question is, why are we bothering to look at it? Bothering is the wrong word to use, but why are we looking at it as a committee if we can't have any input or say on the outcome?
I think we have just been informed, perhaps.
There are a number of items that come up in the agenda regularly that are purely for noting, so that the town council is aware of what's going on in the area, even though the town council has no right to object to it. There are a few, obviously. So historically, that has happened since, so you are aware of what has happened.
I have no objections. Yeah, I'm absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to know, but it's just a question. Sorry, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Right, come on to the next item, the variation of the premises licence for the Good Companion Public House. I think you've all had the opportunity to have a look at this. I mean, basically, a lot of it's internal. There is some alterations. I think it's set of training hours, slight alteration. I didn't really see anything that was too.
Look at the pergola or something. Aren't they putting a pergola?
Yes, I'm sorry.
There were no changes to the licensing hours. It was, I may have misread that.
There's something to do with soft drinks, wasn't there?
But there's a whole bunch of stuff that they're talking about, which I didn't understand, which I checked with Matthew about removing the following conditions. And this was all about, providing people with water free and all sorts of stuff in there. And I wasn't clear whether that's all coming out of the license and whether that's normal. So I don't know anything about how it works.
I thought that was while the building was going on, perhaps I misread it.
Ah, right.
Yeah.
Yes, it says the opening hours and licensable activities permitted by the licence are to remain unaltered. And then it said it's got all these conditions, and I say I didn't understand the significance of that.
I think you're right, the canopy is an addition, isn't it?
It's a planning application about 5 months ago, 4 or 5 months ago, possibly.
Are there any objections to this? Or-
No idea, I think.
Sorry?
Good idea, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, I think that pub should be encouraged to
Yeah.
flourish. Yeah, yeah, the community pub.
I shouldn't say that. Okay, right, so we're happy with that one. Thank you very much. Thank you, Charlie. I think over to you, Kevin.
Yeah, just to note this points in the year, you can see the numbers there. Nice and rounded, you don't start being made 50% on the larger ones and 100% on the centre.
Any questions at all on that? Cycling in Woodley Subcommittee, consider the future of the cycling in Woodley Subcommittee, as requested by members of the last meeting. May 23. Do we have any thoughts on the future of how this should go? Did you have a?
Yeah, a little bit of background. So I've chaired a couple of these subcommittees on Zoom, and there's been some ideas have come up, and some of these ideas seem to be quite historical, i.e. that they've been hanging around for quite some time. And I asked the committee to, this is last year, to go away and report back on an item each. And nobody did. And we cancelled the next 2 meetings because there was nothing on the agenda and availability of officers. And very nice it is to have a chat with people for 45 minutes on a Tuesday night. I felt it wasn't becoming very productive. And what I would like to suggest, if you all agree, is that we bring it back under this committee as an agenda item, which will mean that it is more formally reviewed by a greater number of people. We can have more input from other councillors to it as well, and hopefully have some more ownership of the committee of the ideas of cycling in Woodley. But we also include, perhaps, I don't know, just throw this out, we changed the name and we called it transportation in Woodley, or so we're not just looking at cycling, we're looking at walking, running, anything else. And we actually have it as an agenda item, and we can do that quarterly. And then it's on there, it's reviewed by this committee, the whole council, and then anyone else that wants to put stuff in, they can do. That was my thoughts, because I like to have a good old waffle on, but I also like to see some demonstrable results for that conversation. What does the team think?
Are there terms of reference to that committee?
Yeah.
Yeah, as chairman, I don't know what they are. How appalling is that?
Bring them up if you would like me to read them out.
Please.
Relatively short, so there's four councillors.
It's not on the screen.
No, I'll just read it through. 4 councillors, no more than 3 interested parties, such as highways engineer, cycling expert, or cyclists. I think the intention of that historically was to make sure that it wasn't overrun by people that were interested in cycling. There was a balanced view. Others may attend by invitation to give expert advice. The overall purpose is to develop a Woodley Town Council cycling strategy in order to identify, prioritise and optimise actions to improve Woodley's cycling environment and provide better facilities for cyclists. and to work with local authorities, cycling groups, experts to achieve the aims of the cycling strategy. Meetings were to take place quarterly, and the terms of operation, there were 5. First is to review the Vision 2020 document published by the Woodley Community Partnership in 2009 with regard to cycling provision. The next was to define the aims and objectives of the Woodley Town Council cycling strategy. Next was to publish and publicise the strategy, then to discuss how the objectives of the strategy may be met. Finally, to produce a roadmap of the subcommittee's planned future.
But there we are, none of that's happened as far as I'm aware, and I came in, and I say literally, I think it was 2 meetings I did, Kevin.
Yeah.
Then the subsequent 2 meetings after that, because I was elected mid-term last period. So I just felt we're not getting anywhere.
Does this mean we've got a strategy that goes back to 2009?
But 2020, I think you said. Was it?
So the subcommittee was set up in 2020 to review to define the aims and objectives of the Woodley Town Council cycling strategy. As far as I'm aware, Kevin, there's been discussions at these meetings for a strategy, but no strategy has been.
Not a formal strategy. There was, I believe, a document which had some information on it, which I think the council submitted, but it wasn't formulated into a strategy. And I think the document that's being referred to there, June, was the Vision 2020 document.
All right, okay. So if we had a strategy, what would we be, how would we kind of implement it? Do you know what I mean? Do we need a strategy? I don't.
I think, you know, when we go back to the problem in the past, we like to say Woodlands Avenue. Which was one of the-
Yeah, we had that big
Yes.
meeting, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that actually, by having that meeting, having a number of councillors present, not all cyclists, as pointed out, we came up with some very good proposals of how we would see that being improved on what the borough were trying to implement. And
So that was sufficient. You didn't need a separate committee to look at.
that's why it would be good to bring it back in, as
Yeah.
Nicole says, to this committee, so that when something like that occurs, we've got a good mix of representation on this committee to deal with it. I think that would be-
So as far as that subcommittee is concerned, the issue is, I mean, it appears to have been set up to draw up a strategy. So are we saying we don't really need to draw up a strategy? We can deal with stuff.
It was just going round and round and round, you know, buffering these meetings. So.
Because I mean, you know, it's quite easy to sit and write strategy, isn't it? But if half the stuff isn't under your control, what's the point? But
Obviously, if any particular item comes up at any point in time to do with cycling and you feel that a smaller committee needs to consider it, you are able to set up a working group at any time.
just me for the sake of it.
So therefore, do I need to propose it?
File.
It would be helpful to propose and second and take a vote.
Well, there we are. Well, I propose we wind up the cycling Woodley subcommittee and we include it as a quarterly agenda item in the planning and community committee.
And those all in favour? Anybody against? No.
Are you abstaining?
Yeah. So,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Just a quick share, that Councillor Bragg has managed to join us virtually, so he is there.
He is there. Good evening, David. Yes. Okay, moving on to the Wokingham Borough Council car parking increase. I'll just make one comment at this stage that the increase was due to come in very, very short. It's coming in now on the 3rd of July, 6 AM on the 3rd of July.
Yes.
I think the interesting thing is the letter or the from Mike, regarding the legality of these parking charges. To put it bluntly, as far as I can make out, the question is whether or not it is legal to increase the parking charges, to use it for a purpose other than improving parking and travel. And in the case of the borough, there seems to be some confusion or some concern that this increase is there to a large hole in the budget generally. And that does not make it a legal entity or a legal opportunity, should not be done. Now, I brought this up at a meeting I had last night, and the people present there were quite interested at the borough as to, you know, where we are with this. So I think if we feel that there is something that needs further investigation, if you read the transport report, which is pretty heavy in here, there are areas where it would appear that the borough are falling short of the right to actually make these increases for the purpose that they are. Yes, sorry, Linda.
Okay, I don't, I mean, I read this, I couldn't see it, but there's some rumour and speculation going around that working and we're going to start charging disabled drivers to park.
I haven't heard that, but it could be looked at, certainly the question can be asked.
And also they're going to be taking away a lot of the disabled spaces, whereas in actual fact they should be increasing them because the population of disabled drivers is increasing.
There's a legal precedent that I think is 4% of spaces have to be disabled.
But that's not this issue, is it? That's a different.
Not on this one, no, it's obviously.
So, I mean, the suggestion on here is that we request a judicial review, which
Yes.
sounds expensive. So basically what this proposal is saying is that the officers at the Borough Council don't understand the law. That's my understanding of it. Is that
The
what?
officers and the members of
So I think if we're going back to the Borough Council, then we need to have some specific questions to ask them. So the first is to confirm that the officers of the Borough Council have confirmed that this is within the terms of the legislation. So that would be my first question. I don't know whether the executive.
Did you see the response from Assistant Director of Highways and Transport, where they
He says it is.
It is. But that's.
But presumably, yes, this sort of thing that Mike Kennedy has flagged is saying that Barnet Council, they managed to do this, and it was outside the law. But I mean, I've just had a roam around, because I mean, you read this stuff, I mean, it's just like gobbledygook really. But I had a look, there's quite a sort of simplified version on, I mean, of a Shropshire site from their local council, and it specifies that actually you are allowed to spend money on things other than the car parking, and the car parking this year, in fact, so you can accrue a small sort of buffer in case you've got things coming up. Similarly, if in the previous, I think 4 years, if you spent more than you've been taking in, you could go and pay that back to the general fund. But then there's also a list of things that you are allowed to spend the surplus on. Now, I'm not saying this is right or wrong. I'm just saying it's different, you know. So it is really, we just sort of need.
I think we need to ask the question. I think we should be seen to ask that question. I think the thing there is that in his reply, he says the proposed parking charges are being introduced to help support deficits in the parking service. We are querying whether there are deficits in the parking service.
But I think so that is actually a good question to ask. And then the other thing is that, you know, what does the legislation allow you to spend that surplus on? And according to this thing that I was reading, I mean, there are quite a few things that you are allowed to spend the excess on, and you know, it's covered by legislation. And it's not just this the thing that's mentioned in here. There's been a material change to the legislation, or at least there's been additional legislation put in, and now it's, you know, above my pay grade to actually say whether that's right or wrong, but you know, expresses some doubt. I certainly don't think we're in a position to say we'd like to go to a judicial review on the back of this, but we need to ask some sort of clear questions of the Borough Council to reassure us that what they've done is actually valid, and actually to tell us which bits of the legislation that allow them to do that.
I mean, I know there's an issue with parking deficits on Park and Ride,
Oh, gosh, yeah.
but that is totally different, and I don't know that is sufficient, the deficit to warrant this. So we do need to ask what the deficit is and where and if it is within the right to increase parking charges.
Well, as I say, there were 4 categories that I,
Yes.
that they specified, that kind of are related to car parking and transport that you're allowed to spend that money on. So we just need that clarified, that they can, take us through and tell us,
Yeah.
what they're going to spend that on. It's just a bit unfortunate that it's so late in the day,
Yes.
because this is going to incur costs one way or the other.
It would incur costs because of a delay. We were to delay the introduction of these new charges. That's all, as far as I could see.
Well,
It's internal.
yes, I mean, but there must be costs involved in altering the machines.
Well, that's where the technical problem is at the moment. That's why it's been delayed until the 3rd of July. That's right.
All right, because it was the 22nd, wasn't it?
Yes.
I thought this is my last free parking over the road for these reasons. Oh, so we got another week.
David.
You might need to give them a moment. I've just pulled him across. So.
Lost it.
Yeah, we're coming to you, David, when you're ready.
Yeah, he's back.
Hello.
It's not mine.
He just had to reconnect, so I just need to.
Mr. Chair, good evening all. My sincere apologies, first of all. I've got terrible trouble with the internet today. But on this point, first of all, let's all thank Michael Kennedy for the work he put into preparing his paper that he sent out to everyone. He's obviously spent a great deal of time there, particularly coming up with case studies. I've had a brief look myself, and I don't think we should get involved in trying to force WBC on the threat of the judicial review. If we do, then we've got to go through with it. Looking at the Act myself very loosely today, I really haven't had the time to go into it in depth. But I believe I am correct in saying that where you have street parking, then it's the council's obligation to keep full records of what comes in and what goes out. Where you have off-road parking, that legality is not there, and there's not the need to retain records. But having said that, from what I read, I think I'm correct in saying that they can use the surplus on the car parking money to repay any shortfall of previous years. Now that is very, very wide. So if we were to go to, first of all, I believe I'm correct in saying it's £261 straight out just to make the application for a judicial review. A lot of them go through very quickly, no trouble at all. But looking at the response that Matt sent us all from Chris Eason, he's adamant there that they are using it in line with Rule 55, Section 55 of the Act, which is what we are really discussing here. So in my mind, if we went for a judicial review, WBC would put in a defence. Now, will not at that stage really be able to say, oh, we're not prepared for any more costs and walk away, because the threat that had been made would have been negligible. If we do proceed and it is disputed and there's a defence put in, it could involve the council in quite hefty court costs and legal costs.
I think the thing is that I don't think we are now looking at a judicial review. We are asking questions as to the reasons and the legality of actually going ahead with this. We're only asking for a reason and an explanation.
So, I mean, I don't know whether we're allowed to do this, but I mean, the sort of question I would like to ask is, okay, we see we've got this act and it says you cannot use your car parking charges as a way of raising revenue to spend on anything you like. So can you explain to us in plain English what things you are allowed to spend your any surplus that arises in a legal way? And it's just, you know, simply what is it that we can spend it on? And the response from the Borough Council has been, well, you know, we'll spend it on those other things, and because we'll spend it on those, that will free up some money to do stuff elsewhere. So that's my understanding of it. So I just want a list of what is it we're allowed to spend stuff on. And then that's something that can be monitored, isn't it? You know, that when I suppose it's next year's accounts come out and you find that stuff has been spent, more has been spent on things than was actually allowed, then then you've got an argument to make. But I personally would say I would think it is very, very unlikely that the officers of the Borough Council have misunderstood this legislation. I mean, I'm fairly confident that they're.
Well, I think
I mean,
not this far. We would be remiss not to ask those questions.
I mean, just out of curiosity, if nothing else.
I agree.
again, based on what I read today, the surplus has to be spent really on highways. Any surplus would need to be spent on the roads and mainly on the upkeep of the car parks, of course. It does say in there that there are exemptions in certain instances where the council is prescribed. Quite what they mean by that, I don't know. But the article I read did also, which was, I think, March this year, did say that at that time there were no councils that met the prescribed requirement. So that rules that out, but I'm pretty certain that they can spend it on highways.
Well, as I say, the thing, sorry, I'm sort of jumping in here. The thing that I saw, David, it was saying that, well, it suggested that you can spend money on facilities for public transport if you decided that you don't want to build any more car parks in your area. You could spend money on highway or road improvements, and something I think that's come in from a later act is you can spend it on environmental improvements, and there's some sort of discussion about what that is. So really, rather than us try and plod through all this legislation, which, as I say, is like arcane to say the least, we could just ask the Borough Council, can you tell us in plain English what it is you are allowed to spend it on?
I think that's really where we need to go. Everybody's happy. Yeah, that's a really good thing. Thank you very much. Thank you, David, for your input as well. Right. Community speed watch, but actually that goes back to David as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, I've got nothing further to report on that at the moment, I'm afraid, Bill.
Sorry, I didn't.
Sorry, I've got nothing. I've got nothing further to report on that at the moment. But by the time we have our next meeting after the summer recess, then I would do a full report of the update position at that time.
I thank you very much. Yes.
Just to ask David whether you want a hand with any of it. Can any of us help you with it?
Oh, yeah, plenty.
All right.
But, really, it's volunteers that I require who are prepared to sit down and do an online exam.
Right.
Which a police exam. If you're happy to do that, then once you've passed that exam online, it's quite a simple.
Well, I'll contact you, David, because I just thought
Yeah,
there's
most
quite a lot
certainly.
to getting this up and running, isn't there? And yeah, if we can. I'm just interested in it. My daughter lives in a village in Surrey, and they've got one of these things. And apparently, it's quite successful. Because as soon as they're out, it pings around on everybody's WhatsApp. They're out. Slow down.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, once all the formalities are complete, and this has been my problem over the last 6 to 7 months, I just haven't had the time in the day available to me to sit down and work on it. But once I can get possibly 2 people through the test, then we can be flying. Subject only to the police agreeing where we're going to put cameras.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you, June, for that. Right, on to item 12, community issues. Are there any issues we need to discuss about community space? Anybody got anything that's concerned? No? Okay, and highways issues. Any members have any issues on highways? Interesting thing. I've been on to I know it's not in our town, but the 329M, the road surface from M4 to Coppy Beach is awful, and I've been going on about the resurfacing of that. And they've always said, well, it means a road closure and everything else. It's got to be closed sometime. They're going to do it anyway. Went down there yesterday, and they closed the inside lane from the M4 to Coppy Beach, opened it off. How long for, I don't know, but today is the start of Ascot.
Brilliant.
So they decided that now is the time to resurface it. They've picked it really well, haven't they? Anyway, that was just a by the by. Any other points on my mind? Okay, where are we now? Let's go over the page. Publications, information. We've got receipt from, or application for the Me Too Club newsletter, May 23, and CCB newsletter, June 2023. Anything else? Future agenda items? Well, obviously, the cycle will, and that is going to be quarterly. So I think the first one should come
September.
September.
I think because we've got the summer holes to get through. And if we can have it, we've got, I think the chance of having more people here will be September. Would that be okay? Thank you.
Anything else that needs to go on that agenda? Publicity and website. Again, I mean, I think we've been waiting on the Speedwatch, but again, that would come up once we're up and running and we can actually make something of that. It would be a later thing. Anything immediately for publicity? No. And enforcement issues. Okay.
Appendix 78.
We're still being carried out on children. No.
I can't picture a nursery.
That's WBC Bridges nursery. So,
No.
Manor Way, work started before the application was determined. That is that the one we looked at with community land? So he's obviously started putting the fences up before he actually got it determined, so. Yeah. 1 Eastwood Road, land grab of amenity land, so that's going to be notifications gone through that. 4 Coppice Road, additional window inside elevation is being looked at. There are any other items that we wish to discuss? Now is the time, otherwise I will call the meeting to a close. Very much. For attending.
Thank you, Bill.